Very helpful. We will figure out the situation with hybrid. Moving forward, I think that the rest of the people aren't setting these. Okay, so next we have a confirmation of Michael Christie to the Jedi Committee. President Holland, if you'd like to take this one.
So again, I'm going to be up here a couple more times to be able to talk about the appointments. But I'm appointing Michael to fill that second Jedi Committee spot along with DEI Manager Josie Hamilton. Michael's very capable. He's proven that as CDO thus far, and he's an incredible student advocate and leader. And he's really, you guys hear me? Okay. He's a tremendous leader, tremendous student advocate. Really nobody else I'd rather have serving with Josie on that committee. And yeah, I'm proud to be able to appoint him.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mason? My voice sounds amplified. Yeah. All right, does anyone have any questions for Mason? No. All right, seeing none, we move into discussion. Any points of discussion? None. With that, I motion to pass this by unanimous consent. Any questions or actually any objections? None. All right, with that, Michael, congratulations. You are confirmed. Nice job. All right, we move through to Abby. Confirmation of Abby Engler to Scholastic Standards Committee appointed by President Holland.
Again, this is, as of right now, I'm the lone committee representative on Scholastic Standards in the USG Senate. But now, for Abby Engler will be joining me. Unfortunately, she had to be switched over from university planning because of scheduling issues. But I'm really excited to have her on Scholastic Standards with me. I know she'll do a tremendous job. And yeah, I'm really glad to be able to appoint her today.
Okay, Mason is really excited, and we're really excited too to have you. So any questions for Mason or for Abby? All right, seeing none, any points of discussion? Okay, with that, I motion to pass this by unanimous consent. Any objections? Any objections? Okay, seeing none, congrats Abby, you are confirmed. Okay, I promise everyone, Senate is not always like this. It's the first Senate of the year, so we have to pass through a lot of the boring stuff. Thankfully, in the meantime, Darren got all the minutes to be approved, so can everyone access the minutes now? Okay. No?
Not in 3.4.
What did you change the settings to the university or to everyone? Try again. All right, continuing. And?
The rest of them seem fine. The first and the last.
Okay, so we will try to do the second and the third. You can access those?
Yes.
Okay, so with that, we will move to approve the minutes from 4/7/21. All right, any questions? Yes, Carter. Yeah, you don't need to if you don't want to, but I recommend that you do because people in UCTV won't be able to hear what you say.
I still don't have approval.
All right, so we will just not do the minutes right now. Okay, moving down again. All right, confirmation of Ethan Worcester to Senate Executive Committee appointed by President Holland.
So this is actually an appointment I'll talk a little bit more on, just so you guys can actually be aware of what's going on. So originally I was the SEC representative for the undergraduate student government. The problem arose when SEC meetings were shown to be scheduled on Fridays from 9 to, I believe, 11:30 or 12, and then from 1 to 2:30. And there was no student in USG or outside of USG that was able to serve in that capacity. So after frequent back and forth discussions, a lot of conversations with SEC, they agreed to allow us to have an alternate for the fall semester, meaning that Ethan would be allowed to serve as SEC representative for the first half of those meetings on Fridays, and I'll be able to fill in for the second half. Given that voting and certain confidential information is shared in the first meeting, and I wouldn't be in that first meeting, I would then have to nominate Ethan to SEC. which honestly I'm thrilled to. Ethan has been a tremendous vice president this year. I know he's going to do just as well in SEC, and there's really nobody I'd rather have in SEC, so I'm proud to be able to nominate. I'm proud to be able to nominate him today.
Okay, so any questions for Mason or for Ethan? Okay, seeing none, any points of discussion? Nice, moving forward, I am going to motion to pass this by unanimous consent. Any objections? Great, all right, seeing none, this passes. Congrats, Ethan. Okay. All right, so now President Holland is appointing himself to the University Senate. So President Holland, would you like to elaborate?
Yes, I would like to elaborate. So basically, another facet of that SEC agreement, which is a new rule that they implemented this year, is that anybody who is at those meetings as a representative has to also be a university senator. And given that we had some university senate changes, I'll be filling in that final university senate position so that we can meet the SEC agreement, and then I can then serve as a member of the university senators. So that's the situation.
Okay, any questions for Mason? No. Any points of discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to motion to pass this by unanimous consent. Any objections? Wonderful. Okay, so this passes. Congrats, Mason. On your new appointment. All right. So, next we have a confirmation of Carlene. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Please correct me. Carlene Santiago to Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advocacy Coordinator position appointed by CDO Christie. Michael, where is Michael? All right, so you know what? We will skip through CDO Christie's appointees for now until he gets back, and then we'll return to that. So I apologize. I didn't realize he stepped out. All right, so we have a confirmation for the Student Services Committee. Ooh, okay, Alexis, if you'd like to come up here and just give us a little bit of context on your appointee or for your decision, that would be excellent. You can also just go up to that one if it's easier. Yeah, if that's just easier for you.
Hi guys, I'm nominating Beatrice de Almeida to be my Deputy Director for Student Services. She's a very qualified candidate. She previously served under a committee as a Sexual Health and Wellness Coordinator. She organized the period box, and she's a very organized and helpful person. I don't doubt that she would be a great person to fill this role.
Wonderful. Is she here?
I think she's right there, on my backs.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us. Does anyone have any questions on this decision? All right, seeing none, any points of discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to motion to pass this by unanimous consent. Any objections? All right, seeing none, this passes. Congratulations. Welcome to the team. Okay. Unfortunately, those are all of the confirmations we have until CDO Christie returns. So unless anyone can access the minutes, which something tells me the answer will be no to, we will move to legislation. So I guess it's worth asking, can anyone access the minutes yet? None of them.
Just the middle two.
You can access the middle two?
Yeah,
Carter, you too?
I could also access
First and last one now. Same.
Okay, so this is odd. I would try going in from your Yukon account. There is a possibility that whoever is doing sharing settings has done it to be Yukon specific. All right, if that's working, I think we're going to try to get them done just because that's how we typically do things. It'll just be easier. Okay, does anyone have any objections with that decision? Kazi, go ahead.
This is nothing to run.
Okay, great. Okay. I'm nervous now what that was about. Okay, so we are going to move to approve the minutes from 3/24/21. Any questions? If you have a question, Ben, you can come up and speak at the microphone so everyone can hear.
It's more of a procedural, but how picky are we being? Is like a misspelled name enough for this, or are we talking about?
I'm going to go with no on that, just to save everyone time. Okay, does anyone have any other questions? Thank you for the question, though, Ben. It was a good question. All right, seeing none, any points of discussion? All right, seeing none, we are going to move to approve these minutes by unanimous consent. Any objections? Great. All right, so the minutes from 3/24/21 are officially approved. We move on to the minutes from 4/7/21. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, any points of discussion? Again, seeing none. All right, with that, I'm going to move to approve these by unanimous consent. Any objections? Nice. All right, we're flying through these. Okay, so in that case, this passes by unanimous consent. We're moving to the approval of the minutes from 4/28/21. Any questions? All right, seeing none. Any points of discussion? Seeing none, I move to pass these minutes by unanimous consent. Any objections? All right, with that, we move to pass these, or they are passed, whatever. They pass by unanimous consent. Wonderful. And then we have one more, approval of the minutes from 8/18/21. Any questions, Ben?
Yeah, Damani just texted me that there's a problem with the minutes. I don't know what it is.
What's the problem?
With these specific minutes. He says he can't hear it.
Damani, what's the problem with the minutes?
Okay, well, in that case, it's,
Indicate whether or not the funding policies proposed by the comptroller actually pass.
I see.
That's an important point.
That is an important point. Comptroller Bergen, would you like to come up here and explain?
What?
To Damani's question, he says it doesn't show whether or not the something funding something was approved. I couldn't hear us. Damani, could you repeat your point? Damani, can you repeat your point, please? I'm holding up a child. All right, Damani cannot hear us, but you had some concern. Ben, what was his concern?
It did not indicate in the minutes apparently that the funding policy, whether the funding policy is passed or not. I think given that, can I just make a motion?
Yeah.
I ask unanimous consent that we return these minutes for revision.
Before you do that, do you have anything to say about this?
Yes, that they're passing unanimously.
What do you mean?
Like the funding policy changes. I can confirm that the funding policy changes were passed unanimously in August. Okay.
Okay, so we'll just, yeah, Ben, would you like to make a motion to amend so that we don't have to revise?
Yeah, I ask unanimous consent that we amend these minutes to reflect that the funding policy is passed unanimously.
Okay, does anyone have any questions about Ben's amendment proposal? Okay, seeing none, does anyone have any points of discussion on Ben's amendment? All right, with that, we will move to pass his amendment by unanimous consent. Any objections? All right, so that amendment passes. Thank you, Ben, for making it. Saved us all a lot of time. All right, and with that, can we move to pass these minutes as amended by unanimous consent?
Please ask Damani.
I don't think that Damani can hear
I
us.
think we're good.
And quite frankly, I think all of us have had a very long, very wet day.
Then you don't think that I can hear it. But
You can hear anything else? Yeah, maybe. Actually, that's a good idea. So we're going to try to get Damani on the phone, which might speed up this process.
Gave me a thumbs up emoji.
Okay, so I think that we approved these minutes right now. I can't remember. I just put on speaker. Okay. I think it should be good. This is why the hybrid version is very difficult, I think, and we will definitely be working with the union to see how we can improve it, but in general, being in person is definitely helpful because technology is not our friend, apparently. So. Okay, sounds like we're good. So these minutes have passed. All right, excellent. And CDO Christie is entered at the perfect time, so we will move into his confirmations. Okay, so we have a confirmation for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advocacy Coordinator position appointed by CDO Christie. CDO Christie, if you'd like to come up and say a few words on your appointment.
Hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Christie, Chief Diversity Officer. My pronouns are he, him, his. And today, the first person I'm appointing to be a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advocacy Coordinator is Carlene Santiago. Carlene Santiago is someone who has been in multiple places of leadership within this university. She's also been a strong advocate for the Latinx community here at Yukon, as well as being very involved in PRELAC and a number of other spaces. And I have the utmost confidence that she will be able to bring that community and other communities together in this position to advocate for the beliefs that students have at this university, as well as representing USG in the best way possible and offering our assistance in organizing and achieving policy and agenda items that are in line with what our beliefs are in this organization, which is that everyone deserves equal opportunity to access and education and all the things that Yukon has to offer. So with that, I'm appointing Carlene Santiago as my first Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advocacy Coordinator.
Excellent. Is Carlene here? Ah, hello, welcome. All right, so are there any questions on this appointment? None? Any points of discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move to pass this by unanimous consent. Any objections? All right, seeing none, welcome. You are part of our team. So glad to have you here. All right, so we're moving into confirmation.
Well, that's what I said, but
I already asked me something. Okay.
so can we do all those swearing-ins after the end, just as a
Okay, so we're going to do all of these swearing-ins at the end of the confirmation. It'll save us a lot of time. Okay, so we're moving into the confirmation of Marissa as the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advocacy Coordinator. Studio Christie, if you'd like to speak on that.
So the next person that I will be appointing to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advocacy Coordinator position is Marisa Naclerio. Marisa is an awesome advocate here at the University of Connecticut. My freshman year, she was one of the first people that I saw really out there advocating for environmental justice at this university. She's been a very strong advocate for how we can be a more sustainable campus, and she's also been a strong advocate about environmental racism and the effects it has on Black, Indigenous, and communities of color. I'm confident with the environment that we are in right now and the climate crisis that we are facing, that Marisa will bring all these issues to the table in this organization. She will be a leading voice in this organization to help us navigate what's the best way to addressing the climate crisis in our community, because we all have a responsibility to addressing that crisis. And I have the utmost confidence that she is overall going to be just one of the most accessible leaders in this organization, and helping all of us get to that common goal of wanting to address the climate crisis and leave this university and leave our communities, once we do leave them behind, to the next generation in good hands. So I'm super excited to also be appointing Marisa Naclerio to be a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advocacy Coordinator in USG.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Any points of discussion? Okay, seeing none, we move to pass this by unanimous consent. Any objections? All right, excellent. Seeing none, this passes. You are confirmed. Welcome to the team. One clap, please. Okay, so it seems like I think we've gotten through all of our confirmations in a very convoluted way, but we have gone through them nonetheless. And so I'm going to ask that, I suppose, Damani via speakerphone swear everyone in. So Damani, can you call Damani so we can swear everyone in? I know, but then CEO Christie came and told me that we do need to swear in that Holly answered that we need to.
He is mistaken.
The two advocacy coordinators.
I don't
They
think
do
that
not need to be sworn.
it's not the bylaws that you just swear an advocacy coordinator.
It's on the bylaws.
No, it's
apparently.
not on the
It is not on the bylaws.
Of the bar.
It is not on the bylaws. Never mind. Okay, so we are not doing a swearing in, but you are all part of the team. So thank you for bearing with us. Obviously, USG is hopefully not going to be the most formal place, and I think we've definitely established that precedent today. So anyways, I think that we are through with the confirmations, right? If anyone has any points they'd like to make, this is a good time to say them. Okay, excellent. So you're all part of the team. Thank you for being here. Yay, we'll start with a little snap. Okay, anyways, in all seriousness, let's return to our legislation. Our first is a resolution in support of participation in the Rally for a Peaceful Planet. So I am going to, Darren, can you open it up actually so everyone can see it? So this is our first piece of legislation. To everyone who's new and who hasn't really been through the formal process of going through legislation, the way that it works is that we'll open it up on the agenda so you can all see it. You can also follow along on your laptop or whatever device you are signed into. And what we do is we give it off to the author, who is going to explain why they wrote it, what it's about, what it does. Then you have the opportunity to ask questions. And then from there, you can make up points of discussion, and then we'll vote on it. The way that we're going to vote moving forward in general will be a private vote, because I think that private votes encourage everyone to be authentic to what they believe in. But given that today we are in person, I just wanted to ask, does everyone have a laptop with them? No. Okay, so moving forward, I think how we'll do this is we'll have everyone bring a device so that you can all do the WebEx poll that's already going to be made. But because not everyone has one, what we'll do today is I can pass around paper. I'll cut up a little piece of paper while we're going through the piece of legislation, and everybody can write their vote privately and close it. And then the only person who will see that vote is myself, and I will not disclose that vote because it is your choice and it is your vote. So does this process make sense to everyone? Obviously, we're learning to adapt to the hybrid model, and it's not the same as it typically has been. So any questions? Yeah, Ben, go ahead. Can you speak into the mic, just because I can definitely hear you, but I'm not sure that people far away will be able to.
Yeah, so how are we keeping records of these votes? Because I'm pretty sure we are legally required by the Freedom of Information Act to publish the results of our votes, including who voted for what.
So as far as I'm aware, we are legally obligated to post the results of the vote in terms of the numbers. So we want to tell people this vote, or this piece of legislation passed by XXX vote, right? Like this many in favor, this opposed, and this many abstain. But as far as I am concerned, we can do private votes as long as that information is recorded, but is recorded in some space. And then we may or may not disclose that later if we find that it is an issue. But as far as I am concerned, it is not. So I will check with our advisors, and I will get back to you. But until I have a definitive answer, I'm going to keep it private, just because I think that really makes this a more diverse place, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay,
wonderful. Thank you for bringing up the point. I will follow up. I will check that out for you, just to be certain. Any other questions? Nice. Okay, we're going to get into this piece of legislation. I will pass it along to the authors. Now, there are multiple authors, so whichever author would like to begin presenting this, maybe someone close to a microphone. Okay, great. So Nihan's going to get us started, but there are multiple authors, so if anyone else wants to chip in, please just let me know.
So basically the purpose of this legislation was we just wanted to affirm that students have the right to political participation on campus, that they have the right to peaceful assembly, and we wanted to encourage faculty and staff to allow students to attend the rally because of their freedom of assembly and freedom of political expression. So if anyone else wants to jump in and talk about it.
Either Ethan or Michael, would either of you like to speak about the legislation? Good? All set? Okay, so with that, we're going to move into questions. So does anyone have any questions? If you do, just raise your hand. Excellent. Okay, seeing none, we move into discussion. Any points of discussion? Wow, an uneventful Senate. Okay, so we're going to move into voting, and just given that there was no discussion on this matter, I'm going to motion to pass it by unanimous consent. So are there any objections? Wonderful. Okay, well that was very smooth. That is excellent, especially given the content of this piece of legislation. It's a big deal, I think, especially given the statement that was made today from the university that this passed by unanimous consent. So kudos to all of you for being a part of that. All right, so now we're going to move into the second and I believe final piece of legislation for the day, which is a proposal to form a Yukon Student Employee Advocacy Board. So I'm going to move this over to Darren. I believe he is the author.
Hey, how are you all doing? I'm Darren. I'm parliamentarian of the Senate. You're going to be seeing a lot of me, and hopefully I see a lot of you. I'll be brief in introducing my legislation. So basically, I don't even need to look at it because I obviously wrote it. But so basically, this is a student employee advocacy board. I noticed that when it comes to student employees, there's not a lot of representation in terms of a group, a club, an organization, or a committee that really serves to represent the interests of student workers on campus. And we oftentimes find that whenever issues arise with student workers, such as the RA pay cut earlier this year, and the dining hall worker pay cut that happened maybe last year, I can't remember. But we find that a lot of the times when things like that happen, student workers have really no place to turn to. And so I really want to create that place to turn to by giving people a committee on which they can share their grievances. We can be middlemen between them and the administration and such and such. This piece of legislation is something that just proposes its creation, saying that USG is behind this. I'll be presenting another piece of legislation that kind of makes this into a formal thing, putting it under a committee and whatnot. But this legislation simply states that USG is behind the support and will fund and use whatever resources it can in terms of creating the advocacy board.
Hi, thank you, Darren. I think it's a really interesting idea. I'm very excited to hear. Anyone has any questions? It looks like Ben has a question. So Ben, if you'd like to come up and voice your question.
Yeah, Darren, first of all, thank you for writing this. I think it's awesome. I just wanted a little more clarification. Is this something that's going to be created within USG, or are we pushing for Yukon to create this? Like, who really is it advising? Who does it, where does it go, basically?
Okay. This is going to be a USG board, and everything I imagine is function within the system of USG. I think that our resources would really give this advocacy board benefit, along with our connections to administration. I don't really see it being a thing that's outside of USG. I see this really serving under one of the 4 standing committees and whatnot.
Thank you.
All right.
Great question, Ben. Does anyone else have any questions for Darren? Linda, come on. Come along. Just come on. All right, yeah, what's your question?
Hi, can you give me a little more explanation about what this advocacy group will do for student employees?
So I see this advocacy group really focusing on their particular concerns. Suppose if they have concerns regarding pay, regarding treatment, suppose if the school unfortunately does have to shut down and there is, discussion about what happens to, our paychecks and things like that. That's something that I really envision us working towards, and everything like that. Issues that, any department may have, in the dining halls, or whether that's, RA issues and whatnot. I really see this organization focusing on their particular problems and, dealing with whatever crises may arise, unfortunately, through that sort of miscommunication between administration and workers.
Well, you're up there. Just want to make clear, this advocacy board will also be dealing with racism that students experience at the dining hall as dining hall employees?
Of course, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? Those were excellent questions. Any other questions for Darren? Okay, seeing none. Wait, Alexis, your hand's not up, right? Okay, yeah, seeing none, we move into discussion. Any points of discussion? And just as a clarification for anyone who may have forgotten or was new, the difference between questions and discussion is that, of course, questions are things with a question mark, but discussion, you can say anything. You can come and tell the author that you really like their idea. You can bring up points that you just want people to add their feedback to. So it's pretty open-ended as long as it doesn't end with the question mark. All right, so any points of discussion? Okay, wonderful, seeing none. I'm going to move to pass this by unanimous consent simply because I didn't hear any opposition. Now, after Senate, if anyone has an issue with me passing things by unanimous consent, and I am definitely open to hearing that. I'd be more than happy to discuss it. We can definitely limit the amount of times that we do unanimous consent, so I'm very open to that conversation. Just come speak to me. The only reason that I tend to lean towards it is that it does save time. But the most important thing is that everyone feels included and that everyone feels that we are following a process that they can feel comfortable with. So just come speak to me if you don't like it. But and then we can definitely change things up. Okay, so I'm going to move to pass this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections? Okay, seeing none, this passes. Congrats, Darren. Thank you for writing this. And that is the end of our voting items list, which is excellent because that leaves very little on our agenda, which means I think all of you will get to go home pretty soon. Okay, so we move into discussion, and there is just one item, which is future guests. So, we at the USG have the tremendous privilege of being able to work with admin more closely, and I think in that same respect, we are usually the organization that admin tends to visit the most. So I am curious in general to see if there are individuals that any of you would like for me to invite to Senate. We can definitely do that. I will say that in the announcements, which are coming up later, I will mention 2 individuals who will be joining us, actually 3, who will be joining us quite soon. But we have a great deal of influence in who comes to visit us. So if there's someone that any of you are interested in speaking to or hearing speak more closely, that's something we can do here. So does anyone have any points of discussion they'd like to make? Anyone have any feedback for me? Yeah, Winter.
Will the president implement it?
That's a great question. I think that we can hope that the president will visit. I will definitely extend an invitation. If one hasn't been extended by any other member of Gov Board yet, but I haven't extended one, so I will. Now, given that we reached out for the rally and have not heard back, it's questionable, but it is definitely a possibility. So I will mark that down and I'll send out an invitation. Any other suggestions? Okay. All right, seeing none, we're going to move into announcements. So there are a few. I don't know why they're formatted all funky like that, but the first is that we'd like to quickly go over the USG Senator attendance policy. Now, just to be clear, it's only applicable for senators. So if you aren't a senator, this doesn't apply to you. And I would speak with whoever your supervisor is or whoever the leader of whichever branch you are a part of is to see what your attendance policy is. But ironically, when we're talking about the attendance policy, it's always the people who are here and already aware of the attendance policy. But I thought that I would just sort of explicitly discuss it today in case there were questions or misunderstandings. And also it'll be on record for anyone who did not come so that we can go through the process of making sure that the only people in USG are those who actually attend and want to be here, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Darren first because as parliamentarian, a large part of his role is making sure that attendance is a priority, and so I think Darren is more qualified to speak on this. So Darren, if you'd like to make a few words.
Hey, how are y'all doing again? I'll be brief in saying that we are not playing about the attendance policy this particular year. I know that things were a little wonky last year with COVID and whatnot, but we are implementing the 3 strikes rule, and everything will work. You can work with us and everything. If you can't make it, if you're sick, especially if you're sick, just email one of us and let us know. But if you're just missing meetings to miss meetings and you're not letting anybody know, we're going to have to cut you eventually. Not like physically, obviously, but we're going to have to remove you from the Senate because you're not, doing your job. And basically, I will say, and I'm pretty sure Irene will say this too, this is a commitment that you've made. This is a commitment that, I've made and you've made and everybody else have made. Let's not, hurt the organization or waste that by not showing up and everything. Again, it's a 3 strikes rule, but we're willing to work with you. Just come in and we won't have any problems, all right?
Thank you, Darren. So just to be clear, there will be any violent enforcement of Senate or caucus. But like Darren said, we do want to take it seriously. We do want to make sure that the seats are filled with people who really care to be here, because otherwise we can fill them with individuals who do want to be there. And I think that it's very indicative of the fact that all of you want to be here, that you came in person today, and I really appreciate that. So just to elaborate a little bit on what the 3 strikes policy means, it sounds very intense. So first of all, yes, you can email us. You can also text us. I think most of you have my phone number and probably Darren's as well, so text also works. I know that if I was in a sort of emergency and I needed to text or like communicate with my supervisor that I couldn't get into work that day, which I think is an equivalent example, I would rather text because you're an emergency, you can't like pull out your laptop. So you can text us, that also works. Now this applies across the board to committees as well, because committee attendance is a large part of being a senator. But the 3 absences from committees will not apply to your absences from Senate and caucus. So how that works is if you miss 3 of your committee meetings and you don't tell the committee director that you're going to miss them, so they're unexcused, you'll have a meeting with myself and Darren, and we'll discuss why you're missing and you know how we can work with you to make sure that you're not missing, and see if it's still a good fit for you. And then if you miss 3 caucuses or senates, so that could be 1 caucus and 2 senates, or 2 caucuses or 2 senates, you know, it doesn't really matter what the combo is, but if you miss 3 of those, then we'll have to remove you from the Senate. But I don't anticipate that being a huge problem. I think in general, senators tend to be very motivated people who are good about keeping on top of this. So I don't think it'll be a problem. Just thought I would start off the first Senate by making it clear so that there weren't any mistakes that were made later on just out of miscommunication. So I know I just spoke a lot, so does anyone have any questions or any points of discussion? Cool, okay. Seeing none, we'll move to the next item, which is the rally. I'm going to quickly defer to CDO Christie on this. I mean, I will also speak on it, but I think given that I've been speaking for a while, it'd be kind of like a nice refresher to hear a new voice. So, Mr. Christie, if you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Irene, even though I didn't put this on the agenda. So there's a rally happening on October 6th at 12 p.m. and until walkout. 7 organizations, so the Undergraduate Student Government, Yukon Praxis, which is formerly known as Yukon PERG, Power Up Yukon, Yukon Collaborative Organizing, Fridays for Future, Sunrise Connecticut, and the Human Rights Symposium are coming together. 7 really major organizations that are super active in our student body to demand 3 actions from the university. The first one being to reform or abolish the 1033 program. For those that don't know what the 1033 program is it is a Department of Defense program that recycles militarized weapons into our local communities. Yukon's police department is one of those police departments that receives those militarized weapons. So obviously that doesn't sit well with us, and that's something that we do want to address. The second one is raising or relaxing the refugee cap. If you haven't been watching the news, obviously we've just recently pulled out of Afghanistan, which has caused a lot of turmoil in that region, and hundreds of thousands of people are fleeing the region and trying to enter in America, and we want to offer those opportunities for those individuals by raising the refugee cap, and we've already seen that through push by people across the country, the raise of that refugee cap, and we'd love to see that go even further. And the last one, which is local to Yukon, which is declaring racism a public health crisis at the University of Connecticut. Obviously, if you have not seen Yukon's interim president, Dr. Andy Agunobi's statement today, he released a support of declaring racism a public health crisis in the state of Connecticut, which is obviously good news, but we'd like to go a step further and actually declaring racism a public health crisis at the University of Connecticut. And that can do a number of different things. And if you guys have any questions, you can of course ask. But some of the things that specific demand can do is mandate the university to create an anti-racism course. The other thing is expand our resources on food insecurity. A lot of students at Yukon are food insecure, that do not have dining hall passes, that do not eat regularly, which is needed in order to function at such a high level of education. So addressing the food insecurities at this university, and then also stuff like diversifying our staff and student health and wellness. which is Shaw. So our mental health advisors, just staff, people who can understand what individuals are going through at a more complex level, because things do happen across this country and in the state and at Yukon that may have implications on certain individuals and not others, and we want to make sure that the resources there are as diverse and accessible as possible to all students at Yukon. So that's just a little bit about the rally and our demands. If anyone has any questions, you can also ask me, you can also ask Irene, you can also ask Student Development Director Neha. Any of us will be willing to answer, and yeah, I will stop talking now.
Okay, Leon's going to add a few more words, but if anyone has questions, just ask us afterwards.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys like what will be happening after the rally. So we're kind of envisioning it as a walk out of class at 12 p.m. We have a number of student speakers, many of them are from the Rally Steering Committee. President Holland will be speaking. And we've also invited Corinne Prescott from Howard, Connecticut to speak as well. And we are also in the process of inviting all the Connecticut state representatives, state senators, to come to the rally, so students have a chance to actually meet the people who represent them and to speak to them about potential legislation. We're also working with Praxis to create a series of advocacy tables where you can send letters to legislators and also speak to your representatives there. So that's basically what's going to happen at the rally month. Always, if you have any questions, you can ask myself, Michael, or Irene.
Right, thank you, Neha. That was great. People can hear me.
Okay, so thank you, Neha. That was a great summary of what's going to happen. We're all really excited. I know I said at caucus that this is mandatory for all senators, but we're willing to work with you. If you have classes you don't need to go, just show me that you have a class at that time, and you definitely do not need to be there. Now, if you have a class and you want to be there, you totally can. Most professors are giving excused absences, and we can email your professor. But I understand if you have an exam or something, it's a big deal. So just let us know. Let me know or Darren. And the other thing is, if you have a political conflict, if you really don't feel good going to something like this, tell me. That's completely fair, and we want to respect that. But for the most part, I want to see all your faces there. It's going to be really exciting. The fact that the interim president made the statement that he made today is indicative of the impact of this rally already. And I think it's very exciting to think about where this could go. Plus, I know a lot of people in USG like to network with legislators, and we are inviting almost all of the legislators of the state. So it's a good opportunity to meet people in person. But now I'll stop talking about the rally because I do it every day. So we'll move on to our next one, which is our guest speaker. So next Senate, which is in 2 weeks, so the 6th, October 6th, the day of the rally. In 2 weeks, we'll be having a guest speaker, which is going to be Dean Ellie. For those of you who don't know her, she is amazing. I think you'll all love her. So she'll come speak. Dr. Frank Tuitt, who is our Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer at Yukon, will also come, but I do not believe he's coming in 2 weeks. He will let us know when he's available, but he'll be coming within the month. And so will Michael Vidal, who is a recently appointed Director of Diversity and Inclusion at Yukon. He will be overseeing the cultural centers. So these are all really interesting individuals, I think, to hear speak, and you'll be able to ask them questions face-to-face. It's a cool opportunity, and it'll be during Senate since you'll be here anyway. So that's about it. And Mason added welcome to USG. Okay, so Mason, you want to come and welcome everyone officially?
Yes, I do. Hello, everybody. How you guys feeling today? Okay. Now, I know it's a long day. It's our first Senate. I really just wanted to come up here real quick and say welcome. It's been a long 18 months. It's the first time we're here, all in person, enjoying each other's presence. But it's not going to be the last, And I really just want to come up and say, all of us, everybody here, before you, James, Neha, Darren, Irene, myself, Chris, Michael, Ethan in the back, we're all G-Board, we're all exec, but our opinions, our statements, how we feel, do not matter more than any of you, right? We have our positions, we have our titles, we have our responsibilities, but everybody here is an equal member of this organization. You will be treated as such. This is a family. I want you guys to feel like it's a family. If you need anything from any of us, please don't hesitate to ask. We're always going to have an open door policy for you. Also encourage you guys, our furniture's coming in next week, so please come check us out at the office, SU 219. Come by, say hi, sit down, chat with us, get to know us, but it's going to be a really good year. Glad to kick it off this way, and I hope you guys had a good first Senate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mason. That's very sweet. I also want to echo those sentiments. I'm so happy to see all of you in person. It's so much better than being online. So I'm excited. I know this first Senate was kind of dry. You know, they tend to be when we have a lot of confirmations to get through. And I cannot promise that we won't have other dry Senates in the future. But I can promise that if you put a lot into this, it'll be really fun and you'll make a lot of friends. So, you know, feel free to come speak to me after Senate or just text me. But I'm going to call to close. It is, what time is it? Okay, I'm sorry everyone. One last thing. Intent to run deadline is tomorrow. Bad speaker pronounce that. Tomorrow at what time?
12 p.m.
12 p.m. Okay, so for those of you who are residential in particular, I encourage you to make sure that you are in fact going to be rerunning because there are people who don't realize that their term is about to end. So check, make sure that your term is not ending, encourage your friends to run. And now we will call to close at 7:29 p.m. What is that?
You want to do a group photo for the Yukon Instagram?
Oh yes, we do. Okay. And if somebody has to leave, of course you can. But if you want to be in the group photo, please come on up. Again, thank you all for being here. And I'm going to stay after, even after the photo. So if you want to speak to me or to Darren or to somebody else from Governor, please feel free to stay. All right. Thank you all for coming. Woo!
I'll just bother Michael.